All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is a very warm Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp, and we got a very interesting show for you this evening. We're going to be talking mainly about what is going on with the University of Michigan men's, there's the University of Michigan Wolverines football team. Now, the biggest thing about this, and please feel free to share any comments you may have on this, any thoughts, concerns, anything. So the big thing about this is that there is a scandal going around with the University of Michigan. And first off, also thank you so much to the amazing referee Christopher Miles, host of Issues with Wrestling with Christopher Miles. Every Sunday, it's always a great pleasure to have him on, and always a pleasure to have him tuning in. So we're gonna talk about this. So the Michigan football sign stealing case is expected to heat up as soon as the Big Ten decides whether to issue punishment to the Wolverines or coach Jim Harbaugh. Now, this is what we know so far. Apparently, now former Michigan staffer Connor Stallions, who was a low-level analyst for the football team before resigning last week, bought tickets to games featuring future opponents. Now, Big Ten rivals said they have footage of the people who were sitting in those seats filming the sidelines during games. So, in essence, the accusation is someone on Michigan staff paid for others to film opponents in person. Now, of course, that's technically against scouting rules, which were amended to outlaw in-person scouting because so many smaller schools can't afford to send scouts to every away game like some of the other big juggernaut schools out there. There is also an image on social media of somebody that looks like Stallions on the Central Michigan sideline during the Michigan State game earlier this year. If it is, which I cannot confirm at this moment or deny, nobody seems to know why or how he got there. What's pretty clear is Michigan broke the scouting rules some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, why would Stallions have gone through all these lengths? Now, okay, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti went to Ann Arbor, Michigan last week for the conference's field hockey tournament and met with Santa Ono, who is the president of the University of Michigan. He was pressured by the rest of the league's coaches and the university to take action against Michigan. More specifically, action against head coach Jim Harbaugh. Petitti apparently went and asked Michigan to self-impose a suspension and a request that the university declined. And this is a quote from University of Michigan President Santa Ono. Quote, "The reputation and livelihoods of coaches, students, and programs cannot be sacrificed in a rush to judgment, no matter how many and how loudly people protest otherwise. Due process matters," end quote. Now, we have no info so far on what links Jim Harbaugh or any other members of the staff on Michigan to sign stealing. And this is updated just of about 10 hours ago. So be sure to stay tuned as we delve more into this as far as the whole thing. Now, okay, it doesn't help, though, Coach Harbaugh, that the NCAA is already coming after him because of a recruiting violation during the pandemic. Now, the thing of it is, the NCAA, even what may seem like a small offense, the NCAA is one of the biggest nitpickers out there when it comes to micromanaging and really getting down to the nitty-gritty, calling out violations. Now, here's an interesting one. So the Big Ten notified Michigan on Monday it could face discipline for the sign stealing operation, triggering the conference's mandatory 48-hour window for Michigan to respond. It could. We expected that today there was going to be an announcement on a suspension for Harbaugh or a punishment for Michigan. Now, the thing of it is, Michigan is definitely, I mean, they have a big game coming up against Penn State, just days away, and it's on the road. The Wolverines need a win in Happy Valley if they want to stay in the national championship picture. Now, there's also a chance the punishment on Michigan could be delayed after this season. We don't know. Sign stealing is something that's been controversial in sports for a long time. Well before Spygate with the New England Patriots. But that is most definitely each day new information has been coming out, and we'll be sure to keep you posted on it. But that's definitely one of the biggest things out there. And folks, be sure to catch Roundabout Sports on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere there's a podcast. We're working on getting our episodes out there more often. So definitely be sure to stay tuned for that. So yeah, there's that one. And of course, you know, like I said, it's sent it and it in fact actually a source told ESPN this evening, this is actually just breaking news from a couple hours, that apparently Michigan says they are not bringing a knife to a gunfight. So we'll see how that goes in regards to what will happen with the University of Michigan and their sign stealing scandal. Couple pieces of professional wrestling news I want to get out there. Good old JR, Jim Ross, arguably the greatest wrestling announcer of all time, has announced that he is stepping away from his television commentary role. He says it'll be a few weeks off, and for some health reasons, and we wish Jim Ross the best on his recovery from what I believe is an issue with one of his legs. So we'll definitely be praying for him. Also, in the world of professional wrestling, so this is something in regards to WWE's NXT show. So WWE NXT makes its broadcast television debut beginning in October of 2024 with a 5-year deal with the CW network. And it marks the first time in its 13-year history that NXT, which showcases the newest up-and-coming stars in WWE, will be on the CW network. And it's a great thing for WWE especially. Like, I know that there was a time I remember growing up when SmackDown used to be on the CW network. I remember when it used to be on the now defunct UPN. And then I'm wondering right now, for everybody tuning in, how many people actually remember UPN. But that just also shows how old I am. But yes, the CW has done a lot to upgrade its sports programming schedule, and they're definitely excited to add WWE NXT to that lineup. With that, we're going to head to the wonderful world, as wonderful as it can be, of Major League Baseball. So, for those in the world of the St. Louis Cardinals, there are 4 Cardinals up for the All MLB 2023 team. Right now, for the Cardinals, There are Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras, and Nolan Gorman. And you can go on MLB.com/all-MLB to vote. The voting is now open. And I know that, I mean, it was definitely a down year for the Cardinals. Meanwhile, for the Kansas City Royals, they do have one player, that being, of course, Bobby Witt Jr. So go to the same link if you wanted to vote for good old Bobby Witt. And, this is the thing. For the most nominees by team, the Astros had 10 nominees for the All-MLB team. Braves had 9. The World Series champion, Texas Rangers, have 8. The Tampa Bay Rays have 7. And meanwhile, the D-backs, Dodgers, Mariners, Orioles, and Padres all have 6. And meanwhile, there's some other teams such as the Tigers, White Sox, A's, Nationals, Pirates, and Rockies, who also just have one nominee as well. So, definitely get out there and vote. I know there's a lot of voting going on in the world of politics right now, so definitely head out there, vote for your favorite ball players that are available to be in the All-MLB team. Also, speaking of Bobby Witt Jr., he is the Royals Player of the Year for the second straight season. He was unanimously named the Les Milgram Player of the Year award for the second straight year. The Royals announced earlier today. Now, he is the first Royal to be Player of the Year in each of his first 2 seasons. This year, he finished the season with 49 stolen bases. He became the first player in Royals history to have a 30-homer, 30 stolen base season. And he almost reached the 50 marker on stolen bases. He appeared in 158 games, so he only missed 4 games this year. And he hit .276 with 28 doubles, 11 triples, and 96 RBIs. There are only 4 players in MLB history that have hit 30 or more home runs and 49 or more stolen bases. And that's Eric Davis in 87, Mike Trout in 2012, Barry Bonds in 1990, and Ronald Acuna Jr. this year, actually. And Bobby Witt Jr. Spoke to Sports KC 810 radio, saying that he's excited. He wants to stay in Kansas City for the long term. And, I know it's something that a lot of fans are looking forward to. He's the face of the franchise alongside Salvador Perez. But he says, quote, "No doubt this is the organization I got drafted by and the organization I came up with. The goal is to win the World Series for the city of Kansas City." Like I said, via 810 radio. So it's definitely something that's encouraging to see. You love to see that there's so much passion from a young guy, 23 years old. He loves the city. He loves the team, the community. So I'm definitely looking forward to it and seeing where he can go from here. As far as the St. Louis Cardinals go, the Cardinals bolster their pitching staff, acquiring Riley O'Brien from the Mariners. Now, O'Brien, who's 28 years old, was a Pacific Coast League All-Star in 2023. He struck out 86 batters over 55 innings in AAA Tacoma. Despite his 2-5 record, he did have a 2.29 ERA. And he had 15 saves in 19 opportunities. And yes, this is something to where the Cardinals have made it clear they're going to be active in free agency and in the offseason, especially for pitching. They finished 71 and 91 this year. It was their first last place finish in 33 seasons. It was definitely awful. You know, the pitching staff struggled mightily. They finished with baseball's 24th overall ERA at 4.79, 26th in starters ERA with 5.07, and 23rd with their relievers ERA 4.47. The Cardinals dealt starters Montgomery and Jack Flaherty, as well as relievers Jordan Hicks, Chris Stratton, and Yenesis Cabrera for lefty reliever John King and some prospects. So, the only two solidified starters under contract this year in 2024 for the Cardinals are Miles Michaelis and Steven Matz. Possibilities for the rotation include Dakota Hudson and Zach Thompson. There are a lot of very top-notch possibilities out there, such as, Aaron Nola. And as the weeks go on, we'll be discussing more and more about the Cardinals, and as well as the Royals and the free agency market and how things are going. So we definitely look forward to seeing how that goes. Once again, folks, thank you so much for tuning into the into Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. So we are at week 9. We're heading into week 10 of the NFL season. And we are at the midpoint of the season. So right now, if the season, we are taking a look at some of the predictions for what the playoffs will look like. Like I said, we're halfway through the football season. The injury bug has affected a lot of teams, and I mean a lot, and I mean bad. So with everything that's going on, let's take a look at who I feel will be the division winners of each division and why. So we're going to go with the AFC East. And I'm going to start with the Miami Dolphins. To me, the Miami Dolphins have the most explosive offense in the NFL right now. And, Tua is a MVP candidate in my eyes. Tyreek Hill will probably win Offensive Player of the Year. And Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are just unbelievable offensive explosive weapons that just keep the juggernaut rolling. The big thing, though, for the Dolphins, they need to understand is that they are 0-3 against teams with winning records. They are 6-0 against other teams. You need to get over that hurdle and start beating the really good teams, or you're just going to be considered frauds the whole way through. Mike McDaniel, Coach of the Year candidate. Jalen Ramsey coming back has really helped out the secondary. Now, the final 3 weeks of the regular season, they do face the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills, and that is where things really will heat up. Okay. Now, for the AFC North, as you can tell, I'm a big Cleveland Browns fan. It goes without saying. But I'm going to be real here. The best in the North, and to me, one of the top 3 teams in the entire AFC, is the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think people realize just how good the Ravens are. And I think that's the thing. Like, Lamar Jackson's playing like he's the MVP right now as well. Zay Flowers is having a fantastic rookie season. Baltimore's defense is second only to Cleveland's defense, but they still lead the league with just allowing 13.8 yards or 13.8 points per game through 9 games. Speaking of Cleveland, the Ravens have a huge matchup against the Browns this week in Baltimore. Could really shake up a lot with the divisional picture. Remember, we're going with the divisional picture, and then we'll be going with the wild card. So we we've done the AFC East and the AFC North. I'm gonna go to the AFC South. Look, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm sorry. Trevor Lawrence is having a huge bounce back season. Um, and having the right coaching has done wonders for this right now for the teams, for the Jaguars. The AFC South is also struggling. The Colts are really trying to rebound without Anthony Richardson. The Titans are a complete, well, I would say they're a complete mess, and they still are, but Will Levis, I think, is going to help. Texans are looking great. Texans, keep an eye out for them. Maybe next year they can sneak into a wild card spot, but this year CJ Stroud's probably going to be offensive rookie of the year. Will Anderson might be defensive rookie of the year. He's playing so well. So a lot going well for the Jaguars. And look, come on, let's face it, for the AFC West, it is the Chiefs. Do I even need to go into why? Because it's the Chiefs. It's your Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, amazing offensive line story that we've heard so many times before because it's happened so many times before. They're defending Super Bowl champs. They're two-time Super Bowl champs in the Patrick Mahomes era for a reason. And you still got Andy Reid, who's not going to retire anytime soon. He's done so damn fantastic. And big shout out to the defense. The defense was always been seen as the weak link of the Chiefs. Well, guess what? Right now, yeah, you could say it still plays second fiddle to the offense, but the defense, even without star linebacker Nick Bolton, has played absolutely fantastic against opponents. They just defeated the Dolphins in a surprisingly non-shootout matchup in Germany. So now we get to the NFC. All right. We're going to start with the NFC East. This was a tough one for me. Giants, I'm not even going there. Commanders, not even going there. Sam Howell is the future quarterback of that team, though. But when it comes to Dallas and the Eagles, I still see them duking it out. Dallas just played a hell of a game against Philadelphia. It came down to the very last play of the game, and they were stopped just a few yards short. I feel a little bit of proper clock management would have helped the Cowboys emerge victorious in that game. That being said, they're still in the hunt for the division. It's not over yet. But right now, it's the Eagles' division to lose. The Eagles are in the driver's seat. Jalen Hurts is still playing well. Defense is still playing well enough. The football, to me, is one in the trenches. And the Eagles have two of the best trenches in all football, on the offensive line and on the defensive line. For the NFC North, we have the Lions. Now, I never thought I'd be saying that in 2023, but the Detroit Lions, to me, they got Coach of the Year, Dan Campbell. They got a very underrated offense led by Jared Goff. They got a very underrated defense led by Aiden Hutchinson. This is just the underdog team that I love to see. It is so fun to watch the Detroit Lions. Just keep them away from the Baltimore Ravens, and they'll be fine this year. We go to the NFC South. Lord have mercy, this division sucks. Oh, God, this division sucks. Look, it's not the Panthers. I was really torn on this. Most people will point to the Saints. But my thing of it is, I'm going with who I think is also going to probably win Comeback Player of the Year. If they win the division, I should say. And to me, I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think if they go and win the division, Baker Mayfield will win Comeback Player of the Year. Nobody expected Baker to have a good year, and he's playing really well. Tampa Bay definitely has a lot of question marks still, especially on defense. But overall, they're still well within the race to win the division. I like the Falcons' offense, except for the fact that Arthur Smith doesn't know how to run it. But there's a lot of work to be done overall on that team. And the Saints, I don't know. I don't know the identity of them. I don't know how. It's hard to describe them. Because one week they have all this great chemistry together and they're doing great, and the next week they're falling apart. I don't know. So we'll see how that goes. But I have the Bucks. And number 4, you got for the NFC West. Look, it goes without saying. San Francisco, the 49ers, best team in the NFC, in my opinion, right now. But that could change if the struggles from Brock Purdy continue. But right now, it's 49ers are top dog. I actually, come to think of it, they started out as top dog. I scratch all that. There's no way I'm going to give the 49ers the top dog status. That goes to the Eagles. They're 8-1. I'm sorry. I'm not putting a 5-3 team over an 8-1 team unless there is substantial reason. So I'm going with the 8-1 Eagles as my number 1 seed, but I still have the Niners winning the NFC West this year. So then we go to my wild card teams for both conferences. All right. This is where it gets difficult because you get 3 wild card teams. I'm going with the Bills, the Browns, and the Steelers. Because this is the thing. Bills, Josh Allen needs to lay off the damn turnovers. He lowers the turnover rates, the Bills going to be just fine. The Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson needs to play like the quarterback he did before he got hurt, sat out a year, all the scandal, everything happened. He gets to that form, Browns are set because they got the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. This is the best Browns defense I've ever seen, and and probably most people have seen. And keep in mind, they are 5-3, right in the driver's seat of the AFC North lead, without Nick Chubb, without Jack Conklin, spent 3 games with DTR, PJ Walker as quarterbacks. I mean, Cleveland give him credit on this. So, also Myles Garrett is definitely co-leader in running for Defensive Player of the Year, which brings me to my next team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know how Mike Tomlin does it, but man, I give him credit. He finds a way to win these games. I don't know how Kenny Pickett does it, because for 48 minutes, Kenny Pickett sucks ass on the football field. You could even say for 58 minutes. But those last few minutes of the game, Kenny Pickett kicks it into high gear and drives the Steelers down the field, and they find a way to win those football games. And the defense is still stellar. TJ Watt, phenomenal, record-breaking. He was tied with Myles Garrett, in my opinion, for voting for Defensive Player of the Year. If they can do a co-player, Defensive Player of the Year, give it to both of them. They are both playing fantastic. So those are my 3 wildcard teams. You do got teams like the Bengals and, like I said, even the Texans and Chargers, that are still hanging in there. So then we go to the NFC. Dallas Cowboys are my top wildcard team. Like I said, they're still close within range for the division. The what can you say about the Cowboys that hasn't been said for the past 25 years? They lost Zeke Elliott, but Tony Pollard hasn't been a huge. It's the defense. The defense has been absolutely lights out for Dallas. But it is the offense that really needs to kick it into high gear to send them beyond that. The Cowboys are tied for the second most Super Bowls. I'm 28 years old, and I've never watched them in a Super Bowl. So that says a lot about the franchise. My next team, I'm going with the damn, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna go with give me the Seattle Seahawks. They've been playing really gritty football these past 3 weeks. And Seattle, Geno Smith has had a bad year, but they still got a great receiving core of Jackson Smith. They got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Kenneth Walker, great running back. Defense isn't what it used to be, but it's still very solid. But they've pulled out a string of a couple good wins over the past few weeks, and I can see them going hot down the stretch. And my last wild card team, I really had to think long and hard about this. I'm going the New Orleans Saints. Okay. Now, a lot of people are going to think of the Minnesota Vikings. And I would love to see Josh Dobbs lead the Vikings. But the Saints without Alvin Kamara and the Saints with Alvin Kamara are two totally different teams. And ever since they got Kamara back, they've been a very, very much improved team. So I look at it as in Kamara's back, Mike Thomas is back. Derek Carr, when he's on, he's on. Taysom Hill, just an overall fun football player to watch. The Saints are in the driver's seat of the division right now. Let's keep that in mind. I think they'll fall a bit and Tampa Bay will take over, but that's neither here nor there. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying what's gonna happen. I'm just predicting in my mind. But I do see two teams out of the NFC South, if anything, coming out as wildcard teams. So there you have it, folks. That is my wild card and playoff picture for 2023 at the halfway point of the season. How many of those teams will I get right? Hell if I know. I got to get at least half of what I said right. Otherwise, I'm going to feel really bad about myself. So that's going to do it this week for Roundabout Sports, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, please be sure to find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, all that lovely stuff out there under the Roundabout Sports moniker. Find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Interstate 70 Sports Media. My personal Twitter is on there at jcarpsportsfan1. We have Roundabout Sports on Facebook as well. And as always, before we close, I want to put up the NAMI helpline, the largest, the number is at 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those that struggle with mental health issues. And of course, always we put the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline up there. And for that, you dial 988. The number's open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone out there. We all go through problems and trials and tribulations in life. And instead of making it a blame game, and pointing fingers, let's go out there, spread the love, and the help that you need is only just a phone call or message away. And you could also be the listening ears for somebody else who needs that help. So I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. As always, we love Hollywood James Knox. Nothing but the best wishes for him as he continues to recover and get better with everything he goes through. And we'll catch you next week. For Roundabout Sports, I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.